Wait a minute.
Okay.
This is the Unfiltered Podcast.
Hello, unfiltered listeners. So today we're going to be talking about education. And well, it's been a hot topic for a while, to be educated or not to be educated. What does education mean? Do we have to go through degrees? Can we just use YouTube nowadays? Well, that's going to be our topic today. So yeah, thanks for having me, Jill.
Thank you so much for being here. So if you obviously, that's not my voice, but that is Meshvi Shah, who is an MSc in Biodiversity Conservation and Management from a very, very prestigious university, which shall not be named because we don't want to, tilt the bias. But okay, I'm just oh no, how can I forget this? Word of the podcast. So the word of the podcast today is lionize, which we all basically means when you lionize someone is you see them as a hero. I do have an example here. The Republicans continue to lionize Ronald Reagan as their ultimate hero. So Meshvi, you know the rules of the game, right? You have to say
ma'am.
Before I do. And if you do, you get a song from me or something. I don't know. You name your prize.
I'll hold you to that.
Okay. Thank you. Now, okay, let's jump right into this. Tell me, what do you think about education as it is today?
That's a good question. Perhaps maybe I could start from where or what I used to think it was to how it's changed now, because it's changed a lot, my view on education. When I was younger, I really thought that was like the be all and end all, like you have to be educated and that's the only way you're quote unquote successful in life, or that's the only way you can make it in life, to be educated. And by that, I mean like go through high school, do your bachelor's degree, do a master's, maybe PhD, get your job. And like that's the only route of success. And I mean, as I've grown up, my view has changed so much in the sense that I feel like education institutions are so outdated, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Very outdated in like they don't catch up with technology. And I don't mean using laptops instead of notebooks. I mean, we have so much access to like knowledge that it doesn't make sense to sit in a class and just learn through a syllabus, whereas you could do it on your own, but you're paying to sit in a class to go through that syllabus where you could get it on the internet. You could use YouTube.
So I want to touch on that point that you just mentioned right now about sitting in a class and basically doing that by yourself. So I am actually doing my master's right now. Obviously, you know this, but I feel like I'm doing everything on my own. I'm paying an incredibly large sum of money, but
yeah,
I'm not watching any of the videos that the professors are putting on. Actually, I don't think most of my classes don't even have professors putting on videos. We're basically just buying articles from Harvard University and just reading those articles and answering the questions. Like that is, I've just taken a small snapshot of what's going on, but that is basically what most classes are. And because of COVID and everything's adapted to being online, the next thing that we do is have discussion posts, which, by the way, are the most, I don't think they're quite helpful because I'm not really discussing anything with anyone. I'm just going to say, oh, hey, great post, and just reiterate what they just said. Now, in doing these two things, I end up passing the class and then further on getting my degree. So I basically just spent so much money to get a piece of paper that I could have done on my own without having that investment that I made.
Right.
Because it just doesn't make sense to me how they're, even with it being online, you'd assume that maybe the prices of the education slash tremendously, because now you're not having those in-person classes, you're not having that personalization put into teaching. So and you're not, these universities are not even using the resources that they add on to their fees. Like, you have library fees, or you pay for bus passes, or you pay for, just using all the amenities on the campus. But now we're not on campus. We don't have access to the libraries. We don't have access to most of the things that we would if we were on campus. And yet we pay full price for that same education.
Yeah, I think it's like a society thing. It's like, it's been done for the past I don't know, I haven't gone to the history of education, but I would assume at least 200 years. I mean, some of the oldest universities are what, like thousands of years?
Yes.
Oldest English speaking is apparently Oxford, so I hear. So yeah, they've been going on for a while. So I think breaking that societal norm is kind of is what needs to be done, because that's why we keep just investing a ton of money into, these classes. Yet in the back of my mind, I think many people are starting to realize, like, these degrees, many of them, I don't speak about like medicine and dentistry and like, subjects where you need actual practice.
Yes.
But like what I did, for example, it's something which, if I look back in hindsight, I could have looked at the website and networked more actively rather than do a degree. But I'm not regretting it, because I was doing it for a purpose in the sense of changing career. But yeah, my main point is, though, money, investing, you got to be smart about it, like in education, in terms of.
I agree. So
society really needs to. No, just saying, society really, like, we need to like flow with the times. You can't just be like education, university. Maybe that's like a synonym, and maybe that should like be broken down, because it really isn't anymore. I keep seeing job posts where they say, oh, you need X amount, like this degree or 3 years of experience, which is, I think, positive for like the generations to come, where it's like experience is more valued than a degree or a piece of paper, which I think is good.
I agree. I do think the experience is what is more valuable, because at the end of the day, when you are in those classes, you're not really learning anything that you bring into the real world. It's really not helpful to what you would be doing when you're doing your job. And I don't mean helpful just overall. I just mean helpful in the career that you're going to go to. But the job postings that you see, or 3 years of experience, I feel like it's kind of a paradox, because they say that, but if you put someone from Oxford with 2 years of experience and you put someone who has 5 years of experience, most of the time they are inclined to that title that comes along with that degree, even though that they say that 3 years of experience is enough. It's technically, it's honestly, it's so frustrating, because the experience is needed, but in order to get you through the door, that degree is needed. But that degree is rendered useless. But that experience is what's valuable. But in order for that experience to be valuable, you need to have that ticket to get through the door. Do you know what I mean? Like for, I don't know if it applies to the field that you are going into, but I know for marketing, the experience is what's amazing. Like even for economics, you need to have the experience. You need to have that is completely valuable only if you have that bachelor's degree. And I don't even mean a master's degree. If you have that bachelor's degree, that is yours. But if you have that experience without having that bachelor's degree, that experience is not really
doesn't hold water to that sense.
It's kind of looked over, unless you're like 35 years old and have 10 years of experience, and your education doesn't even come into the picture. But when I talk about experience now, I talk about experience when you're just like fresh out of college and you're in your 20s, and just entering the workforce, like the workforce is fairly new to you. That's what I mean. That education that is still important. But 10 years later, nobody really gives a hoot of that ticket
about where you've been, what you did. That's true. I have a question for you, actually. As an employer, let's say if you were employing people up ahead, would you choose experience, or would you choose the amount of degrees someone has plus their experience?
Okay, so this is going to sound, I don't know if this works in practice, but in my mind, I don't think either of those two really would be considered for me. I think when you give someone new who doesn't have any experience the job, they're 100% more likely to be so diligent at getting on top of things and learning how to do things and being like, okay, I don't know how to do this. How do I figure out how to do this? Like they're more active into trying to learn to be able to do the best at the job because they have no experience, and they feel like, okay, this employer has, you know, seen something in me that they're like, okay, this is something that I can do. And so they work
Yeah.
so much. And I speak this from my own experience, is that I obviously, when you get your first job, you don't have experience. So when someone hired me,
Yeah.
you know, I was very on top of things. I was very, okay, I need to learn how to do this. And I was working very diligently to know what I was doing, so that when I give them my work, it is my absolute best and it is what they've done. And also they train you, right? So if you move from one job to the next, what you learned in the first job really isn't important, because they're going to retrain you. They're going to teach you how to do things their way. Because again, companies do things very differently. No company is ever the same. Like the way they do things, everything works is very different. So when you go from one employer to the next, you're retrained completely. So even that experience that you come in with, it's kind of like, it's not going to be used here. You're going to have to, you know, retrain yourself. Sure, the knowledge and all the tricks that you learn along the way are helpful in the sense of that experience, because you are retrained on how to do the job. So back it on to the question. I'm sorry, I
kind of agree and disagree with the skills thing though, because you'd always have core skills. Like those of you, like the listeners that don't know, Jill has been an insanely good communicator, and those skills are hard to come by. Those are like but that's what I mean. Like, you know, do you have enough of like work experience in one place to gain that skill? So is someone just gonna trust you when you can like barely speak? Because me personally, when I get nervous, I can barely put a sentence together, but I know I'm competent. So, you know, it's like your employee is gonna see you babbling or like going on, you know, I don't know.
I think that you bring up a really great point, which is why I said that it doesn't, I don't think those two things take into, let me rephrase that answer. I think there's a lot of things that are at play when you're trying to employ someone. And I don't think just putting it on just your education or just your experience is a ticket that should get you through the door. I think everything that you come with, your baggage included, is what should put you in the door. And baggage in a good way, in this sense. Like,
I was gonna be like, elaborate on baggage.
All the experience, all of, you know, the education.
Would you consider the current employer Lyonnaise? Yay! I don't know if I used that right.
Oh my god. You won! You beat me, yes.
I will be having that song coming through anytime soon.
For sure. Yes, I would, because she took a chance on me, even though I didn't have the experience for the job, only because I don't know if it was the education, obviously not the experience in this case, because I didn't have any experience, or maybe it was our interview. I don't know. I don't think I'll ever know, but that chance was still taken. So I think when it comes down to it, it's more so of everything put together instead of just scrutinizing one aspect of it, if you know what I mean. Like if you came to me today, I would look at your experience, I would look at your education, and I would look at you as a person. So yeah, that's why I think resumes fall short of conveying that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
this is one of the hardest things to do, actually, make CVs and cover letters, because like they're just words on paper. It's so impersonal. It's so you don't express you as a person, your personality, it's just your competence on what, like how much you can cram in a day. I don't know, like, you know, tests and your ability maybe to code and stuff. That makes sense. But I don't know, it's such a deep topic, education. Like, because like what does it mean to you? What is education?
That's a really good question. And I think education to me doesn't mean education in the mainstream way that we see today, where you have a college degree and you have the high school diploma. I think it means what you know. I think it means knowledge to me. I think being educated and being knowledgeable are two different things. You can be educated and you can be completely not knowledgeable at all, and you can be knowledgeable and yet not educated, if you know what I mean. I've met a lot of people who, like, for example, my grandfather, he's never been to school. I mean, he was kicked out of his house at a very young age, and he learned how to speak English, he learned how to speak Kikuyu, he learned how to speak Swahili all by himself. Like, nobody taught him this. And when you hear him speak, his English is so eloquent. It's not even broken. He works in pharmaceuticals today. He works with medicine. Like, he knows what medicine that you need on based off of, like, you say, I have a headache or a backache. Okay, those are really simple things, because I know you just need a Tylenol, but like, for complex issues, if you break them down to him, he'll say, oh yeah, and he'll give you the clinical name or like the chemical term of that medicine. And he has no background at all in the sense of education. And I put that in quotes. Like, he's not been to a pharmacy school. He's not been to high school. Again, he doesn't have that medical background, but he's learned all of this by reading or by, I guess, the experience that he had. And then again, my other grandfather is the same way. He's a doctor. And he actually went to medical school and he became a family doctor. And it was like, he's an educated person, but he reads so many books. He has knowledge on all sorts of things, like on like Nelson Mandela, on like just like, I'm saying
he's an encyclopedia of a human.
Precisely. He has so much knowledge on so many things, and not just people, but like politics and economics, and because he reads all these books. He reads, and he's a doctor already. If you ask him, he's read like most of the books, like obviously. And right now, every time I go to the bookstore, I get him a book to read, like even the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Like, he read that book. But so you see those two different stances. I think they're perfect. I actually didn't even think about this when I was giving you the answer, but they illustrate just what I'm saying on what I think is education. Like, one is not educated in the mainstream or our kind of way, and yet is very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
While the other is educated in a mainstream way and is still, I think, knowledgeable because based off what he reads and what he knows about the rest of the world. So that is what I mean by when I say that you are educated. I mean in like a certain skill set or a certain, or like that you're not blind to what's happening around you. Because at the end of the day, even if you are educated, what really matters is what's happening in the real world, what's happening around you, not in that small bubble of a classroom that you are in.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And I like what you just said about like the comparison that you just made between both grandfathers. But here's the thing with society. Let's say both of them are pharmacists, right? One educated through the mainstream degrees and one just through like reading books and knowledge. At the end of the day, if you had your kids, and like me even personally, I hate to say it, but I would go to the grandfather which has got the degrees, because it's like more comforting to know like, okay, they've been through this whole process that's been placed for like centuries and centuries, or like a standardized thing which has been peer reviewed by people, or like a course that's been like academics have sat down on a table and said this is what you need to know, and you feel more comforted, which is I guess it depends. So sciences, you definitely would.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, if I'm going to get operated on, I don't want somebody who
don't a quack.
Like, I need somebody who knows how to do stuff. I mean, when it comes, that's what I think you brought this on before we had started having this conversation, was context. It doesn't apply in the field of medicine. Like, you need to know the human anatomy, and to know the human anatomy, you need to have a very strong knowledge of where is where and what not to cut while you're operating on somebody. Those are all aspects that you need to know. And I think you need to have, I don't want to say a proper education. I think you need to have proper knowledge on that. And you need to have like practice, because
practice 100%. That's what they call medicine. General practice.
Practicing medicine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is a bit shady, because like you don't want to be practiced on. You just want to get out of there alive. there's something I wanted to bring up. Skills in high school.
Mm-hmm.
We're not taught how to communicate. We're not taught how to do our taxes. We're not taught how to cook. We're not taught how to change a car tire or check the oil, like these basic life skills. Yeah, I think that's a scam. And I don't know, some things where we barely ever use ever.
So I just want to go off topic here for a second and talk about what you just mentioned about not knowing how to change a tire or check oil. Meshvi, Sid, and I had a road trip in the States, and we were driving down from Memphis, Tennessee to New Orleans. And on the way there, the bumper, or I don't know, I don't think it's a bumper, but it was some kind of, this is going to really substantiate what she just said right now, but I still don't know what it's called. Or the exhaust pipe, the whole thing. Okay, so we got off one road to fill petrol in the car, obviously. Where else would we fill the petrol? But we got off, and I think I hit a pothole, and so the exhaust pipe started dragging down, and I could hear the sound of it dragging down. And I was like, oh my God. So now we're like, oh shit, we hear something dragging down. So we pull up into the side, into the petrol station and look out to see. And yes, indeed, we were right. The exhaust pipe was dragging. And now we needed a fix because we had to be in New Orleans that night. And we were, I think, how far were we from? Like a couple of hours?
We were a couple of hours. And just to put in context, it wasn't just the exhaust pipe, it was like the whole muffler part. So like,
oh yeah, the muffler, sorry,
was dragging, not just the tiny little exhaust, the whole thing.
The muffler included. So we were like, okay, you know what? We've got this. So we went inside, where you can just go inside and do some shopping.
The gas station. I like how you're excluding this one thing that we did to psych ourselves up, because at this point, there was zero mechanics. Like gas stations in America, for those who don't know, have zero mechanics. It's literally all you do is you fuel your car, fuel yourself, perhaps go relieve yourself and get out there. That's it. That's pretty much what there is. So we were pretty lost. We did not know what to do. We were desperate. But we're like, okay, we're going to motivate ourselves. We're 3 young, capable women. We're knowledgeable. We've got this. We don't need anyone. We didn't specify gender or anything. We just like, we don't need anyone. Yeah, chill. And then what did we do?
So we don't need anyone. So we went into the petrol station, the gas station, and we went to look around to see what we could use to fix the issue, what we could use to elevate the muffler that was on the ground and make sure it would stay to the car. And we saw duct tape. And in our minds, duct tape is the most strongest thing in the world, and nothing or anything except a pair of scissors can penetrate through this tape. So we were so psyched. We're like, you know what? We've got this.
To be fair, we saw a video sometime back, a meme or whatever, of this airplane, this, I guess, I don't know, aeronautical engineer or whoever fixes planes, taking duct tape and taping it around the engine of the plane. And that's how we got the idea of duct tape. We're like, yeah, duct tape. That's going to do the job.
Yeah. So we went in and we bought the duct tape, and we're so pumped up. We're like, yeah, we got this. We don't need no one. And we proceed to lay down on the ground and put tape on the muffler. And just as we were doing that, 2 guys in a pickup truck were driving by slowly and staring at us. Now, in our minds, we're they must be thinking, damn, look at these girls. They figured a way to fix this. They park the car on the side. They both come out and ask us, what's the problem? And we tell them, oh, this is dragging. And he's like, and one of the guys like, oh, the duct tape will melt. You can't put this
that was so obvious. 3 young, educated girls had no clue.
Physics,
no clue whatsoever.
Physics and chemistry just walked out the door that day.
Common sense who? To be I blame social media. I blame that meme. I blame whoever posted that video on Instagram, and I blame all the people that watched it that made it go viral. That situation is all their fault. Absolutely, 100%.
I agree with you. It has to be their fault. Anyway, these guys proceeded. So he was like, "We'll do this for you," and they went into their car and got zip ties and just tied up the muffler properly. And the whole road trip, which was like how many, like 4,000 miles, 5,000 miles.
Ooh, yeah.
Not a problem. Not once did that muffler fall off. Not once did it make noise. It was perfectly seated the way it was supposed to be, as opposed to if we had put duct tape on it and a few miles later we would have had another problem. But
just to specify, they didn't just have zip ties for fun. They were not kidnappers or anything.
Oh, yeah.
They were servicemen, or I don't know, like they looked like they were doing plumbing, or I don't know. They had those reflector jackets, lifesavers, or whatever they're called.
But they were, we were so grateful for them. So
they gave us some good advice, which we did not heed to our next destination, if you remember, Jill.
Yeah. But yes, this illustrates how much we need to have a skills class in high school, where we need to learn all these life skills that we will take into the real world. Now, if let's look at a scenario where we actually were taught this stuff, this whole thing would have turned out different. We don't need no one would have actually been true.
That's a goal in life, though, to be self-sufficient in that sense, where you're like, you can just do everything by yourself. You're not like dependent on, others to do things.
Yes.
Fix your car, fix things in your house, just, roll with it.
Mm-hmm. I do think that's a skill that we need to know. I don't know why we're not taught this and instead are taught history of colonization. I do think that needs to be known. I do think we need to learn about it. I think history is important for us to realize just how far we've come and how far we're going to go. But I do think that skills portion of it still needs to be there. Like, it still needs to be present. It still needs to be taught. Like, even going to the bank. The first time I went to the bank, I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm just standing there.
I have money and I need it to be not in my hands and safe. Can you please do something about it?
That's legit. Yeah. It's just like, Okay, back to that
was a long loop.
Yes. Back to the skills portion of it. Yes, I agree with you. I think skills do need to be taught into school. And speaking of memes, I saw this meme where it shows technology. I don't know if you've seen it. So it shows the way we used to communicate 25 years ago with the modes of like the phone booth, and then it shows the Apple phone of today and the Samsung phones of today, and then it shows the.
Thank you for adding Samsung.
You're welcome. And then they would, and just right next to that comparison was the education system at the time people were using phone booths, and the education system right now at the time people are using iPhones and Samsungs, and you could see the significant change between the phones, but no change between the education system. Now, that speaks a lot.
Volumes. Yes. And that's the reason I say it's so outdated. It's so outdated how we learn. There's this, I'm an avid YouTube watcher. So there's this guy called Cosmic Skeptic, and he was talking about the history of universities. And he studies at University of Oxford, and even with that degree, he was also like, universities are useless right now. Like, you don't need them. So he was elaborating on the history and saying that back in the day, you didn't have access to ebooks. You didn't have access to the internet. The only place, if you wanted to go read or quote unquote acquire knowledge, is go to a library. And where were these libraries located? University institutions. So that made sense back then. Yes. Why people aggregate, like, oh, I want to be a physician, like I want to do physics or whatever. I just want to acquire knowledge, go to university. that made sense then. Today, on the other hand, you can literally go fly to Bali and learn about like making a nuclear bomb, and you're pretty much set. Maybe you just need the finances. Not that I'm saying or promoting that, but I'm just saying you can do anything, learn anything, anywhere, without the need of enrolling in an institution. And even medicine, you can do that too. But like obviously practice, and I mean that's a whole other thing.
That makes so much sense. That's actually a really good perspective. That makes worlds of sense. I think you just blew my mind right now. I'm sort of processing this.
I'm so glad about blowing your mind.
That makes that just wow. I never thought about it that way. That makes sense why people wanted to get a college education or like have a university background so bad, because that's where you acquire knowledge. You need to be enrolled in those institutions to get it. Whereas now I can sit on the toilet and learn about physics and I'm good to go.
Yeah, I think it held status back then, like, an educated person, or like now it doesn't really hold status. Like everyone has bachelors, that's a bare minimum. Like so many people have masters. It's so competitive. Like you have to stand out. You have to be a great communicator, great presenter, great, like just know how to code, know how to do this. And like, it's so like life. I don't know. Obviously I haven't lived in the past, but it feels very stressful, very overwhelming, very like you have to be an all-rounder, which is too much pressure for anyone. And no wonder there's so much like mental health issues
I agree.
that like come out from like these 9-to-5 jobs and university. And
I think with the access to education, we've also had the access to other people's lives and have that platform where we just we just talk about the good things in life and all the accomplishment. And so when you're just scrolling through a social media, you come across all of these achievements that all these people have, received. And you think about your own and you're like, I haven't done anything. And then there comes the pressure. Nobody really posts about their failures or their disappointments or all the hardships that they've gone through on these same...
The rejections.
Yes, exactly. Like on these same platforms, nobody does any of that. So I think that's why we have so much pressure on ourselves. And I agree with you. I think everyone has a bachelor's degree. Everyone is starting to get a master's degree. There isn't anything there. So how else would you stand out to an employer? And that's where I'm like, why do we have to stand out to an employer? That's my question.
Because not all of us can be employers.
My question is why these people need people to do work. It's not like we have a shortage of jobs. There are thousands of jobs out there in the world because there's so many things that are coming up. When you look from skincare brands, like in the past 18 months, the amount of new skincare companies that have risen is tremendous. And this is just like one platform that I am familiar with. It has just blown up. And together with that, there's so many other industries that have blown up with it. So it's not like we have a limited number of jobs. We're just being really picky when we shouldn't be. Like, why does an employer have to stand out? Why isn't it the other way around? As an employer, you need this person to make you money.
Attract them.
So shouldn't you be the one to be like, oh yeah, we provide health benefits, or we do 401k, or we do like paid vacations or paid holidays and stuff like that? Isn't that what employers should do instead of an employee? I mean,
but I see that a lot in like your side of the world, and by yours I mean like the developed side. Whereas where like global south, it's like it's cutthroat. You don't get those benefits. They're not selling themselves. You have to literally like crawl and claw your way to a job. Whereas global north is more like, like what you just said, they're selling you like, oh, 401k, the holiday packages, blah, 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 paid vacation, maternity leave, no. But I just realized we've only said one side of education, which has been absolutely negative. But I do think there are pluses.
I agree.
I guess we speak from privilege in the sense of we have the internet, we have access to devices I'm talking to you on a phone / laptop. I guess there's like a whole other world out there that doesn't, and education, like the old school way, makes sense.
I do think there are a lot of positives to education. Again, I think learning about geography, I mean, you need to know where the countries are located. Come on. I can't come up to you and tell you where is Ireland and you point to me somewhere in the United States. I'm going to be really mad at your education. Like, I do think that we need to know about our world. I think we need to know about how the oceans work, how we get to breathe. I think all of that is very important. And I do, when it comes down to chemistry, physics, and biology, I do think we need to know how our body works. I do think we need to know how chemicals work together, how gravitational force, why, you throw an apple and it falls to the ground. I do think that all of that stuff is necessary. And I do think even learning about the outer space of where we stand and the miracle that is Earth needs to be known.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah. I do think we need to know all of that. And I think education in that sense provides us with that. But here comes a downfall. Like you and we learned that I know we did. Like we learned about biology, we learned about the planets. We didn't just focus on our country and forget the rest of the world. Like we didn't do that.
Right.
But I know when you move over to the States, there are a lot of people here, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of videos where there's a presenter asking, oh, where is, like, again, like I said,
a ton of them.
They don't know. Like, what's the capital of?
Name 5 countries in Africa.
Yeah.
And there's like crickets.
It's just like, I heard one say, isn't Africa a country? And I'm like, okay. Like, sure, name the continents. Like that was a problem. Like they didn't know what the continents were. And that's where I think the problem comes in. I think the positive is not branched out everywhere as it is for us. And again, you bring that point of privilege. We were privileged enough to go to a good school where we got that education in us, that curriculum was there. But when you look here, it's just like that basic knowledge that you need to have about the world and everything, and the fundamentals and the foundations of how everything works is not as great as it should be. I think I'm being really nice by saying that, but I think that it's not as great as it should be. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. You just said something curricula, and that just like struck a chord in my head. Like, who does define what high schoolers and primary students like have to learn in school? Who sits down and says, okay, they need to know that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell and all that shit. I don't know. But yeah, it's just, who decides that? Do you know that? Like, I'm actually curious.
I don't, but we could like search up right now. Who decides?
I feel like they have a lot of power, literally, on like changing minds, molding minds. I think there's like a whole bunch of academics, like post-doc.
I don't think it's
professors.
Maybe
there was something in America though recently. They were like wanting to teach a certain like aspect of history. I don't want to say it because I'm not too sure about it. And there's a huge debate about it, a back and forth between like parents and policymakers. I don't know.
I think
it was a while back.
I know it was a very sensitive topic. It was either something to do with the Native Americans or the Black Americans. African.
Cool about it, and people were like yay or nay and debate. And but anyways, educate. I think what we were talking about earlier about universities and like the library thing, now it makes sense for like people who do research, because a lot of like these research funds go to universities and then universities like give them out or whatever. So that would make sense for PhD students. I think to any of your listeners, whoever wants to do a master's, have a reason to do a master's. Like if you're changing careers or, something, like have a reason to do it.
I agree with you. And, it's just speaking of that aspect of who decides what we learn in school. So I did the British curriculum, and then I came over to the States and did the way they do things here. And I noticed one thing is that in the British curriculum, when you get to the 11th grade of, say, I think we were what, 15, 16 at that time,
Yeah.
now decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. So you go from having 11 classes to take to, streamlining that into maybe 3 or 4 classes. And then those 3 or 4 classes decide whether you go into dentistry, decide whether you go into
Finance,
accounts, business, all of that. So at a very young age of 15 and 16, where you don't even know what these careers do, what is the core of these careers, you're already streamlining this process. And once you get to like the 12th 13th year where you have to apply to universities, you can't even, like, if you don't want to be a dentist anymore, what are you going to do? Like, you have to apply to dental school, because when you apply to these universities in UK, you're applying based off of the subjects that you've done. So if you do like math, bio, chem, physics, and then you apply for economics, the school, the university there is going to be like, hold on, we're not going to accept you. You don't even have any knowledge on economics. Like, that's something that I realized was very, very frustrating for someone who didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Like, I was stuck between dentist or economist. Like, those were my 2 options, and they were both on opposite sides of the coin. Yeah. Right. So when you have to go from 11 subjects down to 4 subjects, how are you supposed to make sure that you have the option to do both when you know more about what each does?
100%. I love that point. You're so right. I didn't even you're right, because school doesn't give you an opportunity to explore interests. Like, you don't even know what you're interested in, because you don't even know what you don't even know. You don't know what career. And the worst thing is, once you're in university, you've already invested your money, your time, your resources. So it's going to be so hard to flip over at 30 years old, where you're unmotivated and you settle for whatever you have, which is the saddest thing, because that's your passion could have been vet, and you're doing economics, or vice versa, whatever. But school needs to really let people have days with professions, if that makes sense. What dentist, I may be passionate about dentistry, and then I'm just I do a week of following a dentist, and I'm this is not for me.
Agreed. No. Yes, that is exactly what that was where my point was headed. Just having that where what they're doing, so you shadow this person for 2 weeks maybe, and you're okay, this is what I want now. For certain in your core that yes, this is what I want. And so I when you transfer over to the US, I don't think that is provided here. But I know, for example, my sister is in high school here, and she has the opportunity. So there's a vet program that is provided, and in the vet program, you get to shadow actual vets as they work for a week or a month. You have a program where you shadow them, you do what they do, you learn what they do, you do small tasks of it, and that yes. So before you apply to colleges, you're I 100% know that this is what I want to do. So now the process is streamlined in your benefit. Now, for example, if you don't know what you want to do, so when I started college here, you need 120 credits to graduate. So out of those 120, 60 of those credits have to be just of economics. So math, statistics, core economic principles, and advanced economic classes, all of that stuff. The rest of the 60 is up to you. Explore, if you will. I took classes of natural history. I took ocean exploring. I took amazing classes, and those classes really expanded my knowledge just beyond economics. So I learned about the oceans. I learned about how the meteor that we thought destroyed all the dinosaurs was in fact completely wrong in my mind. And the dinosaurs died out slowly. They didn't just all it wasn't just a nuclear bomb where it was boom, that's not what happened. Yeah. And that's what I thought happened. But learning
Yeah.
about all of this is just one of the many examples that I learned from these diverse classes that I took. So I think that is I think in that aspect, the education in the States here is more liberating, if you will.
So I studied in University of Nairobi for undergrad, and it was so strict. We did not have any electives, so like picking things outside of our realm or subject to whatever, that was like up to you. I feel a lot of universities, like British based, because like even your end kind of has like they kind of follow.
Yeah.
It's very I would say it's very like you have to be a self-motivated person to pursue your interest. You have to be there, and that's not in everyone, and it's not fair to ask everyone to be like that, like to follow their passions, because it's hard sometimes. It's hard to follow passions, I think, and it's sometimes when you don't see the end of it or an opportunity that's coming out of it, it's hard. But anyways,
yeah, I think it's very commendable what you did. So Meshvi used to have classes from like 8 to 4, 8 to 5, 8 to 4, 8 to 5, and like back to back. That is like maybe like an hour lunch break for 4 years. And obviously she came out victorious, but I don't think I could ever do that. I think that takes a lot of determination and a lot of dedication and a lot of knowing what you want to do. Whereas if I was there, I think I would have quit the first day. Let's be fair. I actually yourself in one of her classes. I remember. Do you remember when I came to sit into your classes? One of them.
You're a very popular girl, Dash. Everyone was very interested. Yeah, that was a really fun day. Definitely.
It was a fun day, but I just got to have a small glimpse for maybe an hour or two of what Meshvi goes through, and I was fidgeting the first 5 minutes. How long is this class? And she was like, we just started. It's another 2 hours. So I don't know how you did it, but honestly, I think hats off to you for actually going through that whole process. And you know exactly when you did that, what did you think the flaws were there? Like, let's just say that I've given you the power to change that. Now, let's just specifically, I'm going to stick to your course and your degree. If you could change the way they were led, the curriculum of anything, how would you change it? What would you do?
If I could change the curriculum?
If you could change anything, like the curriculum, the way the classes were done, the teachers, and basically the program is yours to form. It's now yours. Like, how would you do it? What would you change?
I was just telling this to one of my friends from UON, and we're talking, and I was like, there's one thing that I would change is in like literally everything from the way the lecturers teach, because some of them just enter the class, put on the slides, get out, give us the slides, and like that's the end of the day. So again, you're just either cramming, or if you're, you have time, you learn with passion, which is sometimes hard because you're just going to go to like YouTube and Google and Wikipedia and articles and stuff. But like, scratch all that stuff out. One thing that I wish our university did was help with finding jobs, careers, because like it's like once you're done with the payment of your university fees and they give you your certificate, they wipe their hands clean and they're like, okay, you've entered the world. There's no services for, oh, this is how you write a CV, this is how you do a cover letter, this is how you present yourself, this, like I think the basics, again, even university lacks basic skills for finding a job. High school lacks basic skills to find your passions, your interests. It's like we're kind of failing society. It's like, those jigsaw puzzles where they don't fit. Or like school, you're just forcing yourself to fit in there, but you don't. And like our current education system is literally like just catalyzing and just helping a whole bunch of misfits. Like you're trying to fit in those pieces and they really aren't, and you're going to like break so many people. And you kind of see that again with the point of people's like mental health going down the drain, burnout, depression, anxiety. Someone who works on the curricula is listening to this, but please do better.
So the university that I went to, and I know all of the universities here in the States provide that career class. So we had to take a mandatory career class that was worth 1 credit, where we learned about how to write a resume, how to write a cover letter, what to wear for interviews, what to say during an interview. You have mock interviews, you have like these resources that you can go to and say, hey, this is my CV. What can I do to change it? And they sit down with you and they tell you, okay, this is wording is different. This is something that you should do here. So all of those resources are actually provided here. If you need to find a job, yes, universities want, as long as you're in the university, they provide all the resources they can to help you find a job. I have heard, not had the experience, but I've heard that once you graduate and you become an alumni, yes, they wipe their hands clean. They're like, now it's up to you. But if you go to a lot of the prestigious universities, they're there to keep their numbers high. So by numbers, I mean like 95% of college students, once they graduate, have a job. So they want to make sure that those numbers are intact. Okay, I have a question for you. Is there anything that you would change about your career, your education journey? Or is there anything you wish that you would have gotten along the journey that you were on up to now that you've become a master's graduate? Starting from primary school to secondary school to university for a bachelor's, now a master's. In that, the whole journey, what would you change? What have you learned in terms of the education forum?
That's a really, really good question. Very one that I haven't reflected on a lot. On the top of my head, okay, for those who don't know, I love to study. I enjoy learning. It's not studying. I enjoy learning. I love sitting in a class or sitting behind a laptop and just reading and gaining knowledge. So in my career path, I wouldn't change anything because I'm happy with where I am. But then I've had so much misinformation in terms of like, if you do this degree, it will lead you here. Because prior to my master's, I was doing microbiology. And, from that, you become a lab technician or you go into like industries or something. But there wasn't a scope in Kenya. And we're not told that. And obviously, it's kind of obvious that you should know, but you don't know. You're like, okay, this sounds like a good degree. This sounds like something I would enjoy, that I would be passionate about, and I'm going to do it. But then you don't see your pay, you don't see opportunities. So the only thing I would change is the amount of research I do before getting into anything that I do. And I've learned that you don't rely on, you listen, you talk, you network, but at the end of the day, like, gather your own information, make your own, because you're going to live with it anyways. So no pressure. But just research. Google is your best friend. You can get literally so much information on the tip of our fingers. I think our generation, the generation ahead of us, we take it for granted. Like, we have so much power in our hands, but we do dances, which is not a bad thing, but like, you could also use it for like attaining knowledge, attaining a happy life, or something that you are satisfied with at the end of the day. So if we put it, I wish I did that before my undergrad. I did a lot of that towards my master's. I wish I did that for my undergrad, because I applied for microbiology and biotech. I applied for environmental sciences. Those are so different, all different countries. And I think I made the best decision by going to Nairobi University. But that's like on a topic in terms of, I didn't know myself as a person. I didn't know my likes and dislikes. And staying here kind of made me confident. I mean, I don't know if that would have happened elsewhere, but I'm happy with my trajectory, if that makes sense. Because a lot of stuff minus education was linked to it. And I'm really happy about that. So yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your words of wisdom. I have enjoyed breaking down and unfiltering this topic with you. Our next topic, as she mentioned, is in the conversation. If you can point that out, props to you. But before we go anywhere, Meshvi is going to take us to a place. And what place are you going to take us today, Meshvi? Where in the world are we going today?
Today we're going to the European country of Andorra.
Ooh, Andorra. Is there anything in particular that you like about this, or did you just randomly choose it?
I visited it for a day because it's so tiny. So literally you just need it for a day. Super mountainous, super beautiful. And it's tax-free. And I think, yeah.
So I found some facts about Andorra that I will let you know. So it's, like you mentioned, it's a small country. It's actually the 16th smallest country in the world by land and the 11th smallest country by population. So that's actually really, really small. The total population is 85,000. That's how many people they are in that
It
country.
looks like a country.
So one fact that actually really surprised me is how much tobacco Andorra produces. I did not know that. So it takes up a lot of the farming space in Andorra. So this one is actually really interesting, is that it's co-principality. So a principality is a place ruled by a prince, and Monaco is an example of that. But co-principalities where they have two princes. So two princes share the title of prince in Andorra. One prince is a president of France, and the other co-prince is the bishop of Urgell. So the official language is Catalan. It's a language spoken in regions of Spain, bits of France, and Andorra. Okay, so this is actually really interesting, but it's never been in war in almost 1,000 years. So 1,000 years of its history, it's never been in war once.
I think it's too small to even try.
Yeah, true. Andorra has no national bank and has never had its own currency. So euro is the currency that you would use in Andorra. And then, so the capital is Andorra la Vella. La Vella?
I am the worst when it comes to picking up languages. I barely speak English.
I think we all barely speak English. English is really complicated. So there's this, going off topic again, but there's these videos that I'm seeing on TikTok not TikTok, oh my God, Instagram, where there's a guy, I'm gonna send it to you, and I may as well post it on the Unfiltered For You page, but there's like this guy who's saying, okay, I don't know how to pronounce these words, help me pronounce them. So it's like cuff, so COUGH, and he's like, how do you pronounce this? It's cuff. It's like, okay, have you seen it? It's like cuff. Then he's like, okay, fine. Then he's like, okay, see,
we watch the same things. We watch the same things too.
But on that note, this is the end of the podcast. I will see Meshvi again for the next one, and I will see you all next week. But before I go, here's a very long list of social medias. Also, Meshvi's is at Meshvi Shah on Instagram. Am I correct?
Yeah.
If not, I'm just gonna tag her anyway. So hit her follow. She is private, so basically you're gonna have to send her your CV, and she'll see it based on your education and be like, sure, I will let this person in to see my page. But Unfiltered For You Instagram page is at Unfiltered For You on Instagram. We have the website where you can go listen to is www.unfilteredforyou.com, and you can listen to this podcast there or anywhere else that you listen to.